Welcome to University Centre Peterborough Interviews and Assessment Centres module. In this module we'll look at the different types of interviews and how best to prepare for each of them. This will include creating the right impression, assessment centres and what to do with a second interview. There are many different types of interview. A couple of them include competency-based interview, where they look at your past experience, biographical interview, where they go through your CV chronologically, a business line interview, which is similar to a biographical, but more based upon your business experience. And in here, they'll ask you what situations you faced and what you did. Or a technical interview, which is related to specific knowledge required for that role. The interviews can follow a variety of structures and may be a combination of one or all types. For example, it could be one-to-one, where there is one representative from the company and you. Or a panel of interviewers, from 2 to up to 15 interviewing you. A group interview will be where you're interviewed with other candidates at the same time. An assessment centre is where you'll complete a number of activities with other candidates. Your interview could also be by telephone or video. It can be structured, where each candidate is presented with the same questions, or unstructured, where it's far more free-flowing and allows more of a discussion. It could be a combination of both. It could be behavioural case, where they look at a problem or hypothetical situation and how you'd solve it. A stress interview, where they provide harsh, rapid questions to see how you respond to pressure. Or strength-based interview, which explores what you're passionate about and skilled at. You may not know what type of interview to expect, so we're going to examine how best to prepare for each of them. You do not have to tell an employer that you have a disability, but you may choose to disclose the disability before you attend the interview in order to ensure that you have the best positive action to empower, protect and assist you while you're at interview. The employer can then make reasonable adjustments and reduce any impact to ensure that you have the greatest chance of succeeding during your interview. Once your disability has been disclosed, it should be kept confidential by the employer unless you have made it clear that you are happy for this information to be shared. You might have notified them during the cover letter or application. You can also actually inform them in the interview itself. It is up to you. There is an additional PDF provided, and it's entitled Students with Disabilities Career Support, and this provides you additional information about support, funding and employment opportunities. We're now going to explore your pre-interview preparation. Preparing thoroughly for a job interview is imperative. Every industry and employer is different, and you will need commercial awareness. Commercial awareness is being conscious of developments in the business world. It's understanding how industries and businesses work and knowing what's going on and being able to analyse it within your chosen sector. It's not a skill, but instead a way of thinking. And there are a variety of ways you can become commercially aware. You want to understand the employer's business, what activities, products or services they provide and how they manage them, how the role you're interested in fits in within the organisation. You want to understand the marketplace, know who the competitors are, know how that employer differentiates itself from its competitors, know how the political and economic trends are affecting the current employer. You'll want to explore who the big companies are, who the major players are in your sector, who's won any major contracts or bids recently. In order to speculate, you'll need to be up to date with general news, politics, economics and how these could affect the developments and strategies for your employer. And know the past. You want to be aware of cyclical patterns in the sector or the economy and consider the impact of the financial year on the employer. And finally, know the effect of your role. Understand how your actions can affect the employer's bottom line. You can develop commercial awareness by following industry news, reading industry magazines, following professional bodies on LinkedIn or networks, joining professional groups and organisations, and attending conferences. There's also a PDF provided called Commercial Awareness, Researching a Company, which will help you develop your commercial awareness ready for the interview. You may be asked to complete aptitude or psychometric tests to identify your skills, knowledge and/or personality. These could occur at any point pre or during the interview process. Generally they're completed online and are timed. The personality test will look at your interests, values, beliefs, motivators, character, etc. by exploring your emotions and behaviours in certain circumstances. They allow the company to see how you'll fit into their culture. The aptitude test will assess your reasoning or your cognitive ability, assessing to see if you have the right skills for the role. This could include error checking, numerical or verbal reasoning, abstract reasoning, or situational judgment. You can practice these tests, and you can practice them with or without the need for paper, notebook, pens and calculators, because you don't know what a company will allow you to use. In the PDF and on the Canvas pages, there are a variety of websites where you can access free tests for you to practice with. Planning your questions to the most common job interview questions can help you feel more relaxed and confident, even if you can't exactly predict what they're going to ask. What you want to do is consider the content of your answer and how you're going to answer, so it's concise, enthusiastic and confident. In the PDF guide, you'll see that there is a list of the most common interview questions, as there are on the Canvas page. With every question you're asked, you're going to want to be able to match your skills, your competencies and your experiences to those that the employer is looking for. And the easiest way to do that is to ensure that you know what the essential and desirable criteria is that they're looking for in the job description. Also, you can take the approach of STAR when modelling your answers. So you're going to look at the situation, the task, action, result, and skills. This means that you can look for an answer that lasts no longer than 5 minutes, is specific, concise, honest, and shows how effective you are. You've used this for CVs, etc., and it is a technique that you will continue to develop during your career path. On the PDF document and in the Canvas pages, you'll find there's hints and tips on how to answer a variety of questions. There's also the most common questions being asked, which will help you. You'll also want to prepare questions for each employer so that you know to hand what type of questions are most appropriate for each interview. And again, in the PDF and the Canvas page, there's some hints and tips and suggestions on what questions you could ask. There's a couple of other areas you may want to consider. Do you need any extra support during this interview? If you need special access or additional materials, you can let them know. For example, you might want written materials to be amended to Braille. You might need signs for where the interview room is. You might need an adjustable chair. You'll also need to plan the route. How are you going to get there? How long will it take? Which journey mechanism are you going to take? Allow for extra time just in case. You generally want to turn up to your interview no more than 30 minutes before it, but don't cut it fine. Consider what clothing, equipment and evidence you're going to need to take. Do you have the appropriate clothing? Is it smart, business dress? Do you have a neat briefcase or folder to carry things like CVs and certificates, a portfolio of your work, pens, calculators, your questions, a notebook and spare paper, the name and addresses of your references and any ID documents that they might require or certificates they might need to see? You might be asked to deliver a presentation, and you may need to consider what else you need to take to support this. And finally, who is it that's going to be interviewing you? Can you find them on LinkedIn or the company website and identify some more details about the role, the structure of the interview, who it is that they're going to interview and what role they have? And there's just a few things with your final preparation. Up to 48 hours before your interview, again, contact the company and confirm your attendance at the stated date, time, location, and the name of the person you are to meet. This just reassures yourself and concludes with the company that you're forward thinking. Reread the job description and ensure you can tailor your answers to the essential and desirable criteria. Practice your answers aloud. Check your outfit, check travel arrangements. Ensure your resources are all collated and reread your research. Have the employer's contact details available in case of emergency. Try to get a good night's sleep, but plan to arrive between 30 minutes to 20 minutes before your scheduled interview. Now let's have a look at the interviews themselves. Interpersonal skills, or people skills, are something that the employer will be looking for, so you want to create the right impression. You want to be mindful that the employer will start looking at these from the moment you enter their premises, not just from the interview point. This can include how you speak and interact with a staff member at the entry gate, parking attendants, reception staff, and fellow interviewees. You'll want to show them that you're polite, courteous, and friendly. You'll also want to show that you're an active listener, letting others speak and ensuring you've fully understood any information or questions. Consider your active listening skills. It's the ability to focus completely on a speaker, understand their message and comprehend information and respond thoughtfully. It's a highly valued interpersonal communication skill and ensures you're able to engage and later recall specific details without needing information to be repeated. You can test yourself about how well you actively listen by looking at the PDF or on the Canvas page, and there is a link provided. You'll also want to explore your body language. Working on your body language for any stressful public event can have considerable benefits. Just acting more relaxed and confident can trick your mind into following suit, but also can allow the confidence to come across to the people that are watching you. A first impression is based on 7% spoken word, 38% on tone of voice, and 55% on your body language. Then your body language has got to be at this point a key factor. It's not only important during the meet and greet, but throughout the interview. You'll therefore want to plan your entrance. You want to smile, make good eye contact, handshake as appropriate. You'll want to ensure that people trust you, which is where the eye contact comes through. It'll also help relax you and relax people that are interviewing you. They won't know that you feel nervous because you're appearing confident. A good posture can reflect energy and enthusiasm. Sit up straight. A slouching can suggest that you're not interested in the role, but sitting on the edge of your chair might give the impression that you're not comfortable. Choose what to do with your hands, whether or not to rest them in your lap or to have them in front of you on a desk. Be mindful that you're not fidgeting, such as playing with a pen. Aim for a relaxed approach. Along with your eye contact, use some relaxation techniques, such as taking control of your breathing, just to calm the nerves, and keep your posture open and smiling. It will help you feel happier and calmer. If you're not sure, try mirroring the interviewer. What you can do is you're observing the interviewer's body language and reflecting it back to them. This is likely to help them become more friendlier to you. For example, if they lean forward, you can lean forward, or when they smile, you do. Although you're not going to be able to go overboard with this. And finally, stay focused. The difficulty with feeling nervous is it can lead to involuntary movements, such as shaking your foot or rocking back and forth in your chair, which can undermine the composed position that you're trying to portray. Becoming aware of your body language in group situation can give you the kind of things to watch out for. Possibly get yourself videoed while you're at University Centre Peterborough to find out what do you behave like under stress. You want to be mindful of aggressive body language, so pointing your index finger at an interviewer or gesticulating wildly can be considered aggressive. In addition to creating the right impression, part of this is in the follow-up. At the end of your interview, later in the day, you'll be sending a short email reiterating your interest and thanking them for their time, and we'll cover that shortly. The following information will help no matter what type of interview you're having. But in the one-to-one, your entry, no matter what time of day, needs to be friendly and with energy, with eye contact, smiling and shaking hands unless there are restrictions in place, and greeting the interviewer, such as, "It's a pleasure to meet you," or "How do you do?" You can start off by providing a positive comment about the company, such as, "I've really been looking forward to meeting," or "I think this company is doing some great work in a particular field." You want to display confidence through your body language and tone. Remember to sit up straight and make the eye contact. Use active listening skills, be respectful, and let the interviewers speak. Do not cut them off mid-sentence. Be patient and jot down any questions that you might have as they arise. You can then go back at a later time and ask the questions. You might want to ask the interviewer, would you like me to ask questions as I go, or would you prefer me to wait until the end of the interview? At the end of the interview, do not assume that the interview is over. The interviewer will make it clear. You can ask when an interviewer is planning to make contact with candidates to let them know. And you can emphasise how interested in the role you are before you walk out by saying something like, I'm really excited about this opportunity and I look forward to hearing from you. Leave a good impression. Thank them by name. Offer a handshake if appropriate and leave the room. During the interview, the employer is trying to see what your communication skills are like and how relevant your experiences and skill sets are. Using the STAR technique will ensure that you are concise in your answers and provide the maximum opportunity to be effective. A panel interview means that you'll be interviewed by more than one person at the same time. Just like you would for a one-to-one interview, if you know the name of the person or the people that will be interviewing you, see how much background information you can find. You want to prepare as much as possible so that you can try to recreate the firing squad experience, because a one-to-one interview is very different from a panel interview. So potentially ask friends to act as a panel and put you through your paces. Try to link the conversations so that you can link them to previous points raised by the panel. For example, linked to my response to John, I've always been able to adapt to new situations, and that includes acclimatising quickly to a new team's working style. You're creating connections that are building rapport with the wider team, and this will also ensure that you're providing consistency with your answers. Try not to play favourites during a panel interview. There will be a hierarchy in the group, and the individuals will possibly defer to other people within the panel. Try to introduce yourself properly to each panel member as they come in, taking note of whom everybody is and their name. If you struggle with names, take a notepad in and scribble them in the order that they're seating. Maintain regular contact with each interviewer, regardless of who's leading the questioning, and make sure to follow up with each person individually after the interview. There's going to be a difficulty that you might get overrun during the conversation because there's numerous panelists. So don't get caught in the crossfire. You want to control the pace of the discussion if you can. And if someone cuts you off mid-flow, let them finish and then politely request that you go back and finish your answer before addressing their question. While facing a panel can be daunting, it's important to remember that the conditions you're facing are the same for every candidate. Group interviews are where a number of candidates are interviewed at the same time. They're preferred as they're less expensive and faster to manage. It tests your communication and leadership and team skills. You generally each have an opportunity to answer the same question, and you need to stand out against your competitors. But sometimes it isn't enough for each person, so you're going to have to find the right balance between answering as many questions as you can and answering them all. You want to not monopolise the interview and answer in a concise manner. So be prepared. Using the STARS method will really help here. Introduce yourself to the interviewer and the other candidates. If you think again you won't remember names, make a note of their names and their seating. You want to appear confident in your body language and your tone. Remember to sit up straight and project your voice because there are a number of them here. Answer first every now and again, but you don't need to answer first every time, and you don't need to answer every question. Actively listen, even if you're not being addressed directly. If you're in a group interview with other candidates, you can even refer back to other people's remarks, such as, similar to John, and then you can explain your answer. And you want to demonstrate respect. Always be respectful of everybody in the room, and if you're interviewing with other candidates, be sure not to dominate the discussion to give other people a chance to speak. If there's downtime before the interview begins, actually engage in conversation with the other candidates or even the interviewers in the room. In the PDF and the Canvas page, there's some additional support here that will help. Telephone interviews have frequently been used as a way of identifying potential candidates for interview. You need to prepare for them just as you would any other type of interview. The best part here is that you need to practice. Talking on the phone actually isn't as easy as it sounds. Record yourself and hear how you sound and practice until you become more confident. Test your voice out by calling friends or family and ask them how you sound. Do you sound enthusiastic, positive and confident? Decide how you're going to open your conversation, such as, "Thank you for calling me. I've really been looking forward to this phone call. I think your company," name, "is doing great work in," whatever field it is, "and I'm really excited about the prospect of being able to contribute." You'll need to find the right location. You need somewhere quiet and space where you won't be disturbed. It should have a good signal, so practice a few telephone calls before you decide the location. You want to make sure that distractions are minimised, so the TV and the radio are off, other phones are on silent. Don't stand near a mirror or somewhere where you can see your reflection, because this can cause you a distraction. Be prepared. You're not going to know what type of questions are going to come up, but you can get a rough idea. You also want a copy of your CV to hand and a copy of their job description. And you want to all the time be making links between your experience and the role. Using the STAR approach, again, will really help. Keep a notepad and pen nearby and possibly a drink, just because you might find that you can take time grabbing a drink while you think. Also remember to have your phone fully charged and the charger to hand, or even the phone continually plugged in. Get into the right frame of mind. Consider what you're going to wear. Even though it's by phone, dress in business wear, and this way you'll have the right mindset. Stand rather than sit, and smile as you talk to the interviewer. On another note, if they're going to ring you, make sure you answer the phone yourself. You want to be clear and concise. You'll find that many phone interviews have a set time frame, so stop talking once you've made your point. Because you can't read the body language, give them a pause so that they know that they can then step in with a question. Listen for tells as well, such as "thank you" or "that's interesting," which might indicate they don't need you to elaborate. Employers can only hear you. They cannot see you at this point, so the tone of your voice is so imperative. It needs to be enthusiastic, positive and confident. You want to be speaking clearly and avoid mumbling. Try smiling will ensure that you sound positive. There's a couple of don'ts here. Just like in a face-to-face interview, your sole focus will be the questions you're being asked. Therefore, don't smoke, eat or chew gum during the call. And although it sounds very obvious, it's easy to get carried away at home and slip into normal speech or actions. Just make sure that you remember that this is an interview, which is why business dress and standing will help. Video interviews in the recent climate have become more and more common. And there's essentially two forms of video interviews. There's the live version, which is a virtual interview with one or more interviewers in real time, usually over Skype, Google Hangouts, Microsoft Teams or Zoom. And then there's a taped format, where you're required to pre-record your answers in your own time and send them back to the employer. And basically the principles are the same as in a one-to-one or a group interview. You need to fully prepare, wear appropriate business dress, have the right resources to hand, etc. But there are a couple of extra things you'll want to consider. You will need to practice. You will not be used to potentially talking in front of a camera, so take the time to practice a mock interview using different software. You'll need to pay attention to your body language, voice, background noises, and ask for feedback from friends over how you come across. Make sure you familiarise yourself with the video tool you're using. They all work slightly differently, and getting to grips with them can make you feel more confident during the interview. It'll also reduce the risk of accidental technical glitches. You'll want to find the right location. You're looking for somewhere quiet, bright and uncluttered with a neutral background where you won't be disturbed. Make sure your face is fully visible, your position to the camera is appropriate so you're able to look down at a slight angle, and some simple lighting techniques such as placing lights either side of your PC screen will help. You want to test your equipment, making sure that you've got a good power supply, your battery's fully charged just in case you have to move locations would be ideal. You also want to check your internet speed and that you're not doing anything that could affect the video quality, like downloading at the same time. There's a couple of final last minute checks. If you're interviewing live, it's a good idea to log in early so you give yourself time to get ready and deal with any technical issues. You also don't want to accidentally start transmitting before you're ready, so put the microphone on mute and pop a post-it note over the camera so that you don't forget to turn the camera off. Then give the camera lens a wipe to remove any smudges. The trick to a successful video interview is to approach it as you would a traditional face-to-face version, while not underestimating the differences. Some will be more confident using technology than others, but taking time to prepare will truly make the difference. And just in case things go wrong, what if? Before the interview, have contacted the company and asked them for a contact number to call in case there are technical difficulties. If the video stops working, call them immediately and ask if you can continue by phone or reschedule. If noise interrupts you, such as a siren, apologise and ask for a few minutes until it's stopped. If someone enters your room unexpectedly, apologise and ask for a few minutes, mute your mic and turn off the camera, deal with the interruption quickly and return. Assessment centres are used by employers as a mechanism to assess your competences as an individual and a team player, to see if you're going to fit into their culture and watch how you interact with others. They're frequently used when a company wishes to employ more than one individual. Generally, an assessment centre will consist of a number of activities or challenges. You'll be observed and scored against known competences for that particular activity, with emphasis upon teamwork and communication. You should be aware that just like any other interview, the assessment will start from the point you enter the employer's chosen premises. So that could be the car park, a reception or a hotel lobby. But they will continue to assess you across breaks and lunch times and until you leave. Assessment centre activity often includes working with information to create a presentation, a report, a synopsis, or a prioritisation task. It will also include aptitude or psychometric tests. Behaviour outside of the activities is key here as well. You want to use your breakout time to demonstrate your interpersonal skills and find out a little more about your prospective colleagues, the business and your fellow candidates. At any opportunity, introduce yourself to others. Do not sit or stand on your own. You can be confident with this, walking up, offering a handshake if appropriate and asking, "Can I join you?" or inviting others who look like they're on your own to join you as a group. Make small talk. Have you travelled far? How was your holiday? Have questions ready to ask the recruiters and the other employees, such as what project are you working on currently and what's your role here? Be very aware of your manners. You want to be polite to the receptionist, parking attendant, person serving the drinks. Consider where you leave your coffee mug, for example. Do you hold the door open for others? Are you saying please and thank you appropriately? And are you showing genuine warmth and looking interested? Often within the assessment centres, they'll have icebreaker activities, and an icebreaker is usually at the beginning of the day and is aimed to relax you into the day and provide you with an opportunity to meet fellow candidates. You might be asked to talk about yourself, say something interesting about yourself, introduce the person sitting next to you, or complete a fun activity. Again, assume the employer is scoring you during this activity. You'll want to speak clearly and confidently, show genuine warmth by smiling, listen in case this information is required later, and look interested throughout this session. In your group activities, they'll be testing your approach to teamwork and group-based situations. And again, you want to introduce yourself to everyone with genuine warmth if you haven't already met them. Show initiative and take responsibility, taking the lead. Now you can do this by offering to timekeep or ask people if they have any initial suggestions or ideas. You want to be seen to be calm and assertive, not aggressive. But make sure you take part, making suggestions, being forceful if needs be, but with a smile and being polite and positive. And give people roles, make people accountable for individual activity. Include others, such as, "What do you think, Tom?" or "Great point, Emma." Include members of the group who've previously been quiet is always a winner with the assessors because it's highlighting that you can draw in other people. Make the effort to remember people's names and to use them. This shows manners and attention to detail. Do not criticise anybody during these activities. It suggests you could be a moaner. You need to be fun time and positive during each exercise. Employers may also ask you to complete a role play, psychometric or aptitude tests, or in-tray exercises. A role play is generally an activity designed to see how you'll deal with a challenging situation, such as an angry customer, an unmotivated colleague, or a late supplier. You're usually given some background information, and then you're pushed to see how you'll react as the individual becomes more angry or standoffish. They're looking to assess your interpersonal skills, assertiveness, listening, business focus, negotiation skills, and ability to work under pressure. You want to make sure that you understand the objectives on what is wanted by the other person by asking questions and gathering information. You want to consider how you'll manage a person who's angry and frustrated. You'll be sympathetic to their feelings and provide a clear, friendly, positive, approachable, and calm response. You will be diplomatic and not confrontational. And finally, you will finish by summarising what you've agreed, issues to be addressed, or the actions to be taken. An in-tray exercise will be an activity that is reflected from the workplace, and it's generally tasks that you would have to complete regularly within the new role. You'll be asked to complete these tasks, requiring you potentially to speed read a number of documents, for example. And they're looking to see if you can work under pressure, prioritise, manage your time, assimilate information, analyse and summarise. They'll often add an additional piece of information part the way through to see how you would deal with change, and can you identify if the information is relevant or not, and see how you'll change your action now you've got this new information. And then you'll have your psychometric and aptitude tests. And just make sure you've practiced these prior so that you understand how to overcome your nerves. Interview presentations are frequently asked by managers to assess the candidates who haven't had time to spend a lot of interview questions directly. For example, the interview presentation may ask them to explore a subject with you, how you would work under pressure, and also for them to see how good you are at presenting ideas. There is a pre-planned presentation where the company will give you a topic, and then there is a blind presentation where you will not be given the topic until the day. In order for you to prepare for presentations, you want to ensure that you know exactly what you're going to be asked for. So either on the day or prior, you can clarify exactly what they're after, how long you're going to be presenting for and to who. You'll want to know what technology or resources are going to be available. Is the internet available? You want to do as much research as possible on your subject. You can refer to the presentations module here to help you create or deliver presentations. Ensure though your presentation is saved in at least 2 locations, such as on a USB stick and in cloud. If you want to take handouts, just be mindful of making sure that they are clear and there are enough for each interviewer. If you've been given a title already, practice the content and how long it will take you to deliver this. You want to minimise their interruption, so consider what questions they might ask. You also want to show that you can be flexible in case they do pop a question in while you're presenting. Consider your body language. So visualise yourself being confident, calm and self-assured. You want to be relaxed. Do not apologise if you're nervous. They certainly won't notice. Focus on the presentation, not you. Smile, keep eye contact and stay still. Practice managing the questions. If you're asked a question, make sure you listen to it and repeat it out loud so that everybody could hear it if it's in a group. Thank the person that asked it and then provide your answer. At the end, ask if this was answered satisfactorily, which gives them an opening for another question. And there's additional information both on the Canvas page and in the PDF guide. Nerves are natural. They're a fight or flight response to a situation. In this case, we're entering an unfamiliar situation, not a dangerous one. The feeling is common, and interviewers also get nervous, which candidates tend to forget about. Nerves often mean you'll perform better on the day. They show that this is important to you. So before the interview, become familiar with the interviews by preparing and practicing often as you can, reducing your nerves, anticipating the questions and preparing your answers, and complete the pre-interview preparation actions within this module. On the day, take a walk, clear your head, avoid stimulants such as caffeine, Arrive early so that then you haven't got to worry about how you're going to get there. In the interview, sit up straight and look engaged. If your hands are shaking, clench your thigh muscles so that you can speak with your hands still. Focus on the question, take notes and clarify if you need to. And remember, the employer wants to find the right candidate. They are on your side. After the interviews, take the initiative and follow up with your interviewer. You can grasp the employer's attention whilst adding any information that didn't come up during the interview or any additional information they've requested. Following up after an interview is just as important step in the process as the interview itself. And it's taking the time so it can work in your favour. Even if you don't end up getting the role, your interviewer might well remember your dedication and enthusiasm when a position comes up in the future. The only time you will not need to do this is if you're asked specifically not to contact them. So within a few days, because you may need to allow the interviewers all time to be completed, send a thank you email to highlight your professionalism, dedication and enthusiasm for the role. You'll want to consider your subject line, so the name, the date of the interview and the interviewer. You want to know who you're addressing it to. You'll put your body of your text, such as thanking them for the time, explain that you're following up on your interview, restating how interested you are in the position, asking for a progress update, and then you'll sign off with a simple looking forward to hearing from you, yours sincerely and their name. Do some double checks before you send it, and then you know that that's clear and ready to go. Alternatively, depending on the type of business and how they respond to you, they might prefer you doing an instant message or a message through LinkedIn or a phone call or a WhatsApp message. Just be mindful not to harass the interviewer. If things drag out, so periodically interviews might happen, but it might be 3 or 4 weeks later before you hear anything, stay in the interviewer's mind, but avoid overwhelming them with numerous emails. You'll find that there's some templates that are available in the PDF and on the Canvas page, which will help here. If you're invited for a second interview, congratulations! You and a selected few have been shortlisted for the final stages of this hiring process. A second interview can mean different things depending on where you're being interviewed. Ask what to expect. Are you going to be doing any additional tests or exercises? Is it a competency or strength-based interview? Who will now be interviewing you, and is there any additional topics they're intending to cover? You can ask them what the content will be, and then you can start researching about the company and the topics they wish to explore. If you can find the names of the interviewers, you can do a little more research regarding them as well. Reflect on your first interview and highlight what you didn't say so that you can bring it forward for the second interview. Prepare for more in-depth questions, and if you felt that you had a weakness in the first one, ask for feedback and develop the answers that you could then work on for your second interview. You'll also want to prepare more questions to ask at the interview. Practice your final pitch and be prepared to meet the rest of the team. Again, you'll want a strategy for answering questions, and the STARS approach will really help you here. So this module has looked at the different types of interviews and how best you can prepare for them. If you're a student, staff member or an alumni of University Centre Peterborough and would like some support, please contact Employer Hub at peterborough.ac.uk.